Hello YouTubers and welcome aboard. I am Noob Flyboy X and welcome to F1 2018 Career Mode. I'm hopefully going to be doing at least 3 seasons of this, but I'm not sure. But here we are, just selecting our avatar, getting our helmet all customized. Gotta have that customization. Make sure our helmet is nice and American looking with the red, white, and blue. Actually, we'll be changing that for my second race. But this career mode is actually going to be set to easy mode, pretty much. The AI is set at the moment to 50% difficulty. The gearbox is automatic. I have the racing line turned on. It's, heavy braking assists. I'm not very good at this. I haven't played F1 or an F1 game since F1 2011, which I played in 2012. And I picked Williams Racing then, still feel the loyalty to them. So I'm going to choose Lance Stroll as my teammate, and let's go.
Thanks for coming by. I'm sure you're very anxious to get out on track. It's taken a lot of effort to get to F1. Congratulations. But the real work starts now. This is
Claire, motorsports journalist. Nice to meet you. You'll be seeing quite a lot of me throughout the season. So, you had a pretty impressive junior career. How are you feeling about your move into F1? Do you think you have what it takes?
Let's save the questions for a proper interview, shall we? I'm sure you'll have a lot more to talk about once there's been some action on track. I think we could fit you in after FP1 if you're free.
That works for me. I'll grab you the second you finish on the track.
Remember, the relationship you have with the team can be affected by what you say to the media. So be careful. Anyway, it's time to catch up with Carl. He's waiting for you in the data center. Good luck out there today.
Welcome to the data center. Here, we've got access to all kinds of information, including car telemetry, weather, lap times, tire wear, the list goes on. Plus, we've got a direct link back to the factory, so we're in constant communication with the team there. We need you to regularly feedback about areas of the car that are lacking, and help us direct our resources in the most productive way. More effort here equals a quicker car, so it's well worth the effort. Good luck this season. Oh, and make us all look good, okay?
We're about to join the action in what is sure to be an interesting practice session here in Melbourne. It's not long until we get the session underway, and we'll have some cars appearing out on the track.
So we'll get started straight away, early on in FP2 actually. I skipped over FP1 for this video, mainly because I was driving like an absolute pig. I was going wide, I was fiddling at one point with the manual gearbox, which didn't go over well. But we'll skip on, like I said, to FP2 here, where we're running one of our acclimation programs, I believe. This is just testing our ERS management. So far it's going alright. We have our first lap just about completed for the test, and we're in the high green, as you can see up the top of the screen there. There's more to be milked off of it once you start fiddling with the ERS level of deployment. And so that's what I do, is I move on toward the end of the next lap, having switched over to low ERS deployment. At the difficulty level that this is set to, I'm actually able to quite easily get the appropriate time in and still manage to get the ERS on low deployment all the way in. So we did that pretty darn well, and now it's time to return to the garage and just check on how the session's progressing.
Our best lap so far is a 1 minute 29.1.
Thanks, Jeff. Well, let's move on to the last of the acclimatization programs that we're doing, and this is just testing for race strategy. We need to do 3 laps here. There's an option to go on to 5, but we just need to run some solid laps here, test out the car, see how the race strategy would look with the performances that we're putting out. So we'll get out of the last corner here and onto the front straight, chasing down, ready to get this started. It's a nice long front straight. Get down here into a heavy braking zone into turn 1 to the right, into the long sweeping turn 2 and onto the second straightaway and the second DRS zone. Flap on our back wing pops open to reduce the drag and get us going faster. Down here, another heavy braking zone as we go into the right-left. Not quite tight enough to be a chicane here. Now we're keeping it together pretty nicely. This was actually a pretty clean lap that I managed for this test, which I'm pretty happy about. Another hard right-hander here into the flowing sections, S's back and forth on the middle section of the track. Getting down here, another heavy braking zone as we go, another hard right. This track goes around clockwise, so we're going to be doing a lot of turns to the right here, but onto one of the high-speed corners of the section. You can see I'm getting a little messy here as I'm fiddling with ERS, but it's alright as we get that line about as cleanly as we've gotten this whole session. A little wide on the next turn into the third DRS zone of the track. Run around here into yet another hard braking zone for the double right-hander here. Just about to the end of the lap now. We got some cars a little ways ahead, but they're not an issue just yet. Come on now to the second to last corner of the track here in Australia at Albert Park. Last corner, front of the grandstands, and we're back onto the front straightaway. Again, DRS open for the straightaway.
Okay, super job so far. We're getting
And we're doing pretty well. Looks like Jeff is happy with our performance. We're going to cut ahead a little bit the next few laps when we arrive on the tail of a battle that's going on between two-time world champion Fernando Alonso and my teammate Lance Stroll. They've been squabbling up ahead and reducing their times a little bit, so I've caught right up to the back of them now, especially here through the corners. The AI are not good in the corners in this game, apparently. You can send it so late on the brakes, and that's actually going to prove critical here in a little bit. As I get right up on the back of them, squeeze the brakes, just managed to avoid giving Alonso a puncture on his left rear. I'm still behind them though, as Lance is trying to find his way back past Alonso. I'm sticking in the tail here nicely, watching their battle. I go wide, so I'm not able to get through, but I get this line all right. Get it down to the DRS straight here, following Alonso. I should have stayed in his slipstream. It would have made this easier. I brake a little early and slam into the side of him. Fortunately, I don't get a penalty. The penalty system on this at the moment is fairly relaxed, and I did that specifically because I knew incidents like that were unavoidable for this first season or two. But I'm through past Alonso to complete this next lap. I actually get the decent timing for that section, and our programs are complete, and there's the end of the session.
The end of the session then, here are your top three. Vettel, Ricciardo, and Iceman.
So practice sessions are complete then. I'm actually up in third place, which was better than I was expecting. I considered upping the difficulty of the AI, but that proved to be unnecessary, as we'll see. But let's move on to Q1.
Welcome to Melbourne, where qualifying for the Australian Grand Prix should be getting underway shortly.
Moving on straight away to the end of my first banker time qualifying lap in Q1. We're doing all right here. It was a decent lap. Nothing really special to show off, but there's our time. That is going to stand until the end of Q1. We couldn't go any better. It ends up getting us P14 in Q1, which is good enough to move on to Q2. Again, we'll just cut right to the end of the lap there. This was also my best lap in Q2. My second attempt at a Q2 lap, I went wide, I went into the grass, I went into the gravel. It was really messy, so I didn't improve, unfortunately, off that first time. It ends up with us in P12, it looks like. P12.
We've qualified above where we expected to be, so try your best to hold on to this position in the race.
So getting on to the start of the race, and we have wet weather conditions. This is exactly what I was hoping to avoid. In F1 2011, I died horribly in wet weather conditions. It never went well. I started on pole position at one point in Silverstone and fell back way the heck down the order, despite being on the easiest difficulty, down to 6th. I cannot drive wet, but here's the issue. I'm having to fiddle with the tire strategy because if I were to do the normal one stop, that I would go in, get on a new set of tires, and the next lap have to come back in to get dry tires. I'm having to extend the first stint of my inters so that I don't have to do an extra stop, and I know this because I did one race and had to start it over. But here we go, we're getting on to the start of the race here. Sorry this has to be in cinematic mode, but my recording kind of messed up. I didn't have the sessions long enough. So I end up having to start the race here in cinematic mode just to show you guys. I'm getting absolutely swamped off the line from P11. Someone actually had a penalty, but I'm getting overtaken as I went absolutely nowhere. Even onto the second straight here. I pulled to the outside to let Kevin Magnussen there and the Haas go by, then switch back to the inside, and here's where I was saying you can go late on the brakes. I dive in, I accidentally tap the Renault of, I think that's Carlos Sainz, but I managed to stay in it without a penalty, at the inside line, and continue on here, going through the curvy section again in the beginning of the middle sector. Again, here we dive it late onto the brakes and make up that gap as he tries to block us off, but we get past Fernando Alonso and back up past Kevin Magnussen. So that was up into where we started just about. We caught on here to several laps later when we're just about to start our pit strategy.
Are we on inters for the next stint?
Jeff says it's 2 laps to go, but he actually wants me to come in at the end of this lap, as we'll see, which concerns me a lot once I get there. What I want is him to give me the new option to go on to dry tires, because as you can see, there's no rain falling. It's still a little damp, as we can see the drop on the camera lens here, but it's really about time to switch on to dry tires. And if he doesn't give me that option before the end of this lap, I am going to have to do that 2-stop strategy that cost me so much time. I fell completely out of the points.
Okay, the gap behind is 1.5 seconds.
Thanks, Jeff, but that's not the concern at the moment. We cut to the end of the lap here, where I'm in P8. I'd like to hold this position, and here we go. Something odd happens.
Check your MFD for a new strategy option.
I hesitate to go into the pits as Jeff gives me the option right at the last minute there to switch. I keep out of the pits, confirm the new strategy, and I'm going to have to extend my inters a little bit. There's only a 15-lap race, of course, so the graining and the wear on the tires is increased a little bit to scale correctly with an appropriate distance of the race. So this extra lap may damage them a bit, and I'm going to lose a bit of time, but I would definitely not lose as much as if I were doing 2 stops. Here we dive into the pits at the end of that lap, the end of lap 9 of 15. And we're doing all right here. Just time to get into the pits, get the dry tires on. So here we go, passing everybody. There's a Red Bull in the pits, and here we are into the pits right now. It's a good stop at 2.4 seconds, but then we get held up as other cars are going through behind us. There's a McLaren, a Renault right in front of us, and now we finally get out. That was a dirty pit stop, but unfortunately, or actually fortunately rather, we don't collide with anybody. We're getting held. But then we see Lewis Hamilton is out of the race as we rejoin behind Max Verstappen. And Max Verstappen in real life is darned difficult to pass, so I have no illusions that I'm going to be able to pass this guy, but I'd like to stay with him so that I'm in 7th. As we go here towards the end of the first sector, we see Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes parked over there on the inside. Verstappen and I get nicely around him and we can continue racing. The end of this lap, end of lap 11 rather, and we're dealing with Carlos Sainz, who's come up behind us. He's caught us pretty quickly. I've unfortunately been back into my habits of messy laps as I run wide there, and he's all over us, and he's going to try to send one up the inside here. Thinks a little better of it to begin with as we go into the second to last corner around here, and I go in too deep, and he's right on my tail now as we head on to the front straightaway. Again, I mess it up and go in too narrow on it this time, and he's going to be right behind me. He might not get me just quite yet at the end of this straight. No, there he goes up the inside. He brakes late. I give him the space, or try to, and there goes the Renault of Carlos Sainz past me, so I'm down to 8th. Jeff's trying to console me here, telling me to stay focused, but look how well that turns out. Even later in that lap, he's already gapped me. I go in too deep here again and miss the line. Off into the grass and the gravel, and there goes Kevin Magnussen past me as well. I cannot hold it together in these last laps, and I'm down to 9th. And here's Fernando Alonso as well, sneaking up my inside. I leave him the space as well, but he backs out as Sebastian Vettel up front goes for the fastest lap of the race. Again, I go a little wide, but it's not a horrible problem this time. There we go again for the second to last corner. trying to stay with Magnussen. I'm hoping to get him back because I want points. At one point in the interview with Claire, I said I was going to bring home the points for Williams, but I go onto the grass again and bump the wall, and there's Alonso past me, and I'm down into the final points-paying position of 10th place. This will award me 1 single point. So I'm trying to stay with Alonso here so that in the remaining 2 laps of the race, potentially I can get past him. I dive in here late on the brakes, bump into him as he parks it on the apex like the AI tend to do here. I just cannot keep it together with these guys, and he's already moving on up the road away from me. In the dry tires, I did not have the pace. Here, though, moving on to the final lap of the race, Valtteri Bottas up ahead of us wins. Fortunately, though, the next person behind me, Brendan Hartley, was a ways back, so he did not catch me. You can see, though, if you look into the top left corner, we're up to 9th. Kimi Räikkönen, actually, for Ferrari, had an engine failure as well, parking himself out on the end of the first straight. So, that's our first race, the first race of our F1 career. And here we go on the last straight. I said I was going to bring home the points for Williams. I just barely managed to do it in the first race.
Alright, race over. Take care of the car on the way in.
A great win then for the Mercedes team today. So, how exactly did they set themselves apart from the pack today?
Well, I think track conditions just really suited their car today. The wind, the temperature, you name it. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature. So the more easily you can keep them there, the better your race tends to go. And that's exactly what happened. Their car just looks so comfortable out there.
So as I say that, we can see the drivers coming out now to collect their trophies. It's yet more silverware to take back to their base in Brackley after another excellent Grand Prix.
So there's the end of the Australian Grand Prix, our first race of the 2018 season, as we see Valtteri Bottas there, Daniel Ricciardo and Sebastian Vettel up on the podium, enjoying it. For us, though, we settle for 9th place, 2 points for the team, which is not great, but hey, we're a rookie, it's our first race, and let's be honest, the Williams is not a very good car to begin with. We'll need to be upgrading that, and that's what the development programs that we were doing in the practice sessions were for. But as we take a look at the standings of the race there, we are looking forward to the next race, hopefully, and that'll be able to show you more of the race. I've improved my recording stuff so that I get longer clips of it now. And thank you very much for watching this first episode of Career Mode, and I hope to see you guys again next time.
Great having you with us for this weekend. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Until next time, though, goodbye.